The more you explain, the weaker you seem. The more you react, the more power you hand over. And the more you try to prove you're right, the more they see your pain. Sound familiar? It's what happens every day in the relationships you're barely holding together, in the verbal attacks that leave you speechless, in conversations that are never meant to heal, but to trap. A psychological game dressed up in nice words. And you know what? In a world that won't shut up, silence is no longer weakness, it's strength. When your words are twisted against you, when truth becomes a weapon used to hurt you, when your reaction becomes their entertainment, this is no longer a dialogue, it's a game. And the winner isn't the one who's right, it's the one who remains composed. The more you speak, the more ground you lose. The more you argue, the deeper you sink into the pit they've dug for you. And ironically, the louder you get, the more you've already lost. But here's the turning point. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to explain to be right. You don't need to sacrifice your peace just to win a petty battle on social media or in someone else's story. All you really need is silence and time, because the moment you step back, karma steps in. The universe never stays quiet. Even when you do, truth has its own gravity, and it always returns to its rightful place. In this video, we'll walk through 7 powerful moments in life where a wise person chooses complete silence, not out of fear, but out of inner power, not to avoid conflict, but to protect dignity. You won't need revenge. You won't need loud words. You'll only need one thing: to say nothing. Because silence isn't the absence of words. It's the presence of self-control. Once you understand the true power of silence, you'll stop using words to hurt yourself. Stay with me to the end, because number 17 will forever change the way you see silence. When you're misunderstood or lied about, few things feel more unjust than being falsely accused. Your first instinct is to explain, defend yourself, prove that I'm not like that. But here's the truth. The more you explain, the more suspicious you appear. The more you seek clarity, the more they create chaos. Because they're not after the truth. They want to shake your calm. They want your reaction to twist it into proof that you're guilty. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it's not true, don't say it. If it's not right, don't do it." That's enough. Live with integrity. That's your shield. Truth doesn't need defending. It reveals itself with time when you've been betrayed. Betrayal is a silent wound. It doesn't scream, but it tightens the chest like a vice. You want to ask, how could you do this to me? Do you even realize what you've done? We were so close. But here's the brutal truth. They know, and they still chose to betray you. The more you demand understanding from someone who chose to hurt you, the more you reopen your own wounds. They didn't betray you because you weren't good enough. They did it because you were too good, so they assumed you'd always forgive. So be silent. No reaction. No final words. No dramatic goodbyes. Your absence will disturb them more than any insult. Your silence is something they can't control. And that is the deepest consequence. When you're publicly insulted, they mock you. They throw jabs, passive or direct. They want an audience to see you crack. You think you should fight back, clap back, set the record straight. But that's the trap. Your reaction is their reward. The louder you get, the more they know they got under your skin. Marcus Aurelius taught, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. A Stoic doesn't wrestle in the mud. He stands still, observes, silent but unshakable. When someone plays the victim to manipulate you, some people don't want resolution. They want control over the narrative. They cry. They twist the truth. Suddenly, you become the villain. And if you try to argue logically with someone acting emotionally, you will lose. You speak facts. They act out feelings. And the crowd, they always side with the one who looks hurt. A Stoic doesn't argue with actors. He walks off the stage and lets time remove the mask. When you're taken for granted, you're the one who shows up. You check in. You remember? You care. But one day, you notice. When you go quiet, no one asks. When you disappear, no one misses you. You're not valued. You're just convenient. The more you try to prove your worth, the more invisible you become. So, a Stoic stops. No announcement, no blame, just silence and withdrawal. Because real value doesn't need to beg to be seen. When they try to provoke you for a reaction, they poke, they prod, they know your buttons, and they push, just to see you flinch. Why? Because they have no real power. Their only power is when you lose yours. Remember Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Don't react. Don't play. Look at them with still eyes. Let your silence be your armor. When they regret losing you, but it's too late. There will come a time after the damage, after the silence, when they finally realize your worth. But you've already healed. In silence, without closure, without drama. Don't go back just because they finally see what you gave. Don't break your silence just because they now feel empty. Let silence be the final boundary. Not to punish them, but to protect you. When you choose silence in these moments, you're not giving up. You're refusing to play a game whose outcome you already know. Because not every word wins, and not every silence is weakness. There was a man named Nam. He was a manager at a large company, disciplined, dedicated, and never played politics. Nam wasn't loud. He didn't chase credit. He simply did his work with the quiet precision of a soldier in a battlefield full of noise. Then one day, a younger colleague, jealous of the trust Nam had earned, began to spread rumors. He stole other people's ideas. He's all style, no substance. He doesn't deserve the recognition. The whispers spread quickly. Within weeks, the energy in the office shifted. Nods became colder. Greetings turned distant. Nam, once the pillar of every project, now stood alone in the midst of silence and suspicion. He had options. Write a rebuttal email. Expose the accuser. Gather proof and publicly defend his name. He could have done all that. But Nam chose silence. He still arrived early, like always. Still worked with the same precision and integrity, like betrayal had never touched him. Still kept his composure. No bitterness. No explanations. No drama. Meanwhile, the man behind the rumors grew impatient. He waited for a reaction. A fight. A misstep. But Nam didn't react. Weeks passed. Then, a former employee who had left the company long ago returned for a meeting, and during that meeting, he revealed the truth. It was the accuser who had stolen ideas in a previous project, and it was Nam who had quietly covered for him, never once speaking about it. In that moment, everything changed. The narrative collapsed. Colleagues who once turned away came back quietly, apologetically. Nam's boss called him in, not to question him, but to promote him. Even then, Nam said nothing more than this. I don't need people to believe me instantly. I just need the truth, to not die too soon. That day, people saw a different kind of power. A power not born from position, not from retaliation, but from the quiet force of dignity. Nam didn't just protect his career. He protected something far more valuable, his self-respect. He didn't respond, not because he was weak, but because he was too strong to be dragged down by the petty. Truth doesn't need you to scream. It just needs you to stand still so it can speak for itself. And later, when someone asked him, "Why didn't you defend yourself earlier?" Nam smiled and said, because I don't need to win an argument. I just need to be right in silence. To this day, that story is still shared in the company, not as gossip, but as proof of something simple. Sometimes, silence is the most powerful answer of all. Have you ever noticed? We only feel the need to speak when we feel threatened, misunderstood, afraid of losing our reputation, betrayed, afraid we've lost our value, insulted, afraid of being seen as weak, ignored, afraid we don't matter. Behind every loud reaction is a very human fear, the fear that we're not enough. And so, we react. We try to prove, we try to explain, we try to set the record straight, because we believe, if I don't speak up, they'll think I'm guilty. But that's an illusion. People don't always believe the truth. They believe what entertains them more. But the Stoic is different. He doesn't need to win in the eyes of others. He doesn't need to be cleared in order to be at peace. He only needs one thing: to stay in control of himself, because he understands. True freedom begins the moment you stop being led by temporary emotions. Epictetus once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Understand this, and you will find strength." And Marcus Aurelius reminded, "If others do wrong, that's their concern. My concern is to keep my own mind calm." The Stoic doesn't choose silence out of fear. He chooses silence because he has already won internally. He doesn't scream for validation. He doesn't cry to be understood. He doesn't trade composure for applause. And you know what? The more chaotic the world becomes, the rarer those who remain composed. While others argue to win, the Stoic stays silent, not to lose himself. Think back for a moment. How many times have you lashed out at a comment that didn't deserve your energy? How many times have you replied in anger only to regret it later? How many times have you explained yourself endlessly only to realize they still believe what they want? Emotions, when undisciplined, will always put you in a weaker position, and instant reactions, often mistaken as courage, are usually just a lack of control. But the Stoic, he's not rigid. He just chooses battles that matter. And sometimes, the best way to win a fight is to never enter it. Not everyone who provokes you deserves your voice. Not everyone who leaves deserves a goodbye. Silence isn't avoidance. It's a quiet declaration. I know who I am, and I don't need to explain that to you. By now, maybe you've realized, the power isn't in what you say. It's in how you stay silent. It's not in impressing others. It's in making them feel something deeper: peace. We live in a world full of noise, a world obsessed with standing out, being chosen, being seen. But because of that, those who choose quiet over chaos, calm over reaction, dignity over dominance, become the strongest among us. Remember this: when you stay silent, you're not giving up. You're simply choosing a different path. When you stay silent, you're not weak. You're holding your power. When you stay silent, you're not avoiding. You're letting karma do the talking. And never forget, you don't need to win today. You just need to be right in the long run. You don't need everyone to understand you right now. You just need to stand your ground and let time speak. You don't need to shout to be heard. The right silence hits louder than any scream. Repeat this like a mantra. I don't need to react. I don't need to explain. I don't need to prove. I only need silence and my peace. Because here's the truth: not everyone deserves your words, and not every situation deserves your energy. Let silence become your way of life. Let your steadiness become your unspoken language. And then you'll see, when you no longer need to speak, everything starts to become clear. We've talked a lot about the moments when people wrong you, when they lie, betray, insult, or abandon you. and how a wise person chooses silence to protect their dignity, to avoid sinking into emotional traps. But now, let's go deeper. Why does a Stoic stay silent? Not just to avoid drama, not to look smarter, not to manipulate the manipulator, but because they understand one thing: you cannot control others, but you can always control yourself. And when you truly master yourself, you no longer feel the need to win every argument. You no longer feel the urge to defend your image with words. You no longer let anger, hurt, or injustice steer your behavior, because you've chosen something greater, inner stillness. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, and a man cannot be perfected without trials." You can endure pain without losing your character. You can face insult without shouting back. You can be forgotten and still live in a way that deserves remembrance. Because silence doesn't kill you, it sharpens you. Every time you choose silence, your willpower triumphs over your ego. You remind yourself, "I am not my emotions. I don't need the world's approval to live by my truth. I'd rather protect my dignity than win a shouting match." Silence is not a short-term tactic. It's a way of life, a path walked by those who are strong and free. No applause, no performance, just peace and integrity intact. You can live in a chaotic world, but still carry stillness inside you. You can be misunderstood, attacked, or rejected, and still walk forward with steady feet and a steady heart. That's the Stoic, not a cold person, but one who knows what to hold on to and what to let go of. And one day, when you've walked far enough from the noise, the judgment, and the wounds, you'll understand. Silence is how a deep soul chooses to answer the world. Maybe you don't need to say anything anymore. No more explaining. No more long messages. No more trying to make them understand. Because if they truly wanted to understand, they wouldn't have hurt you in the first place. If they truly valued you, they wouldn't have let you walk away in silence. So now, just stay silent. Not because you've lost, but because you're strong enough not to compete. Not because you've given up, but because you've chosen to move on without carrying what never deserved your energy. You don't need to win their voice. You only need to protect your own. Let karma do its job. Let time pull back the curtain. Let what you left unanswered expose itself. And if you ever feel alone on this quiet path, remember this: every strong soul has walked through darkness in silence. And it was that silence that forged a presence no storm could shake. If someone hurt you, let them sit with their actions. You don't need to say a word, because the right silence is thunder that echoes in the hearts of those who tried to silence yours. And finally, don't go back just because they finally feel regret. If you had to leave in silence, then the peace you gained is worth more than any apology. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey. If you saw yourself in these moments, if you've ever wanted to scream but chose silence instead, then maybe, just maybe, you've taken a powerful step toward mastering yourself. You don't need to be heard. You only need to be at peace. And if someone you know needs this message, don't explain, don't argue, just send them this video in silence. And if fate allows, we'll meet again in another quiet moment. LABE Stoic.